Guys, the U.S. government is shut down. Hundreds of thousands of workers have lost pay. Agencies are pretty much frozen. And some markets are trying to figure out how long this thing is going to last. Now, if you're here to be smart with your money and not just worry, then this video is for you. Now, today I'm going to walk you through exactly where we are right now, what's at stake, and it's bigger than just the headlines, and how Trump's strategy is influencing things. And I'm going to give you 5 moves that you should seriously consider making with your money today, immediately. Now, I'm not taking political sides on this video. I just want to give you the facts and let you make up your own mind and do whatever you got to do for your own money. Now, before we go further, let's clear something up. A lot of people hear the term government shutdown and they think it means that the whole country is going to stop. That's not what it means. Here's what government shutdown really means. Okay, every single year, Congress has to pass 12 separate funding bills in order to keep various parts of the federal government running and moving. Things like agriculture, housing, defense, transportation, and there's more, right? Now, those 12 bills are called appropriation bills. When Congress can't agree on those bills or a temporary deal that's going to keep the money flowing, what we usually call a CR or continuing resolution, then those parts of the government that depend on that funding from those 12 appropriation bills literally has to stop spending. And that's what we call a shutdown, right? And the deadline, by the way, to do all that is by September 30th every single year. That's the end of the federal government's fiscal year. Now, this year's fight around negotiation for those 12 funding bills is mostly about spending priorities and political leverage. Now, on one side of the aisle, you have Republicans led by President Trump and the House of Representative conservative members who are pushing for bigger cuts to things like domestic programs. And they're pushing for tighter spending caps and more focus on border security and more focus on the big one, immigration enforcement. Now, on the other side of the aisle, you have Democrats who want to protect funding for certain programs like education, healthcare, nutrition assistance. And these Democrats are opposing these deep cuts that the White House has proposed. Now, because both sides have sort of dug their heels in and Congress missed the deadline, September 30th, to pass or extend those 12 bills, we ended up here with a shutdown. No funding, partial closures, and hundreds of thousands of workers, federal workers, sidelined or unpaid. Now, in simple terms, guys, the government didn't run out of money. It just ran out of permission to spend the money. And that's why this is more about politics than the economy, but it still affects the economy in a pretty big way. Now, where are we right now? Right now, today, the shutdown is in full force. There's no patch. There's no deal. Congress was basically sent home for the weekend, right? But the Senate and the House, they are meeting again tomorrow on Monday. So however you think this thing is going to end, it's not going to end today. It may end tomorrow, but we'll have to see. Now, all of that matters because this shutdown isn't just some theory. There's over 2 million civilian federal workers in America that keep things running for the most part day to day, right? Regulatory work, parks and services, contract work, whatever it could be. And right now, about 750,000 of those 2 million are being furloughed, forced to stay home either without pay or they're working with no real guarantee of when that money or that back pay is going to come. So you might know somebody who works for the federal government, or it may be you. But this immediate stress is feeding into thousands of households. Groceries got to be bought, rent has to be paid, and you also have local small businesses who have been relying on federal workers, those 750,000 federal workers coming to work, right? And just so we're clear, there's a 2019 law that is on the books that promises these workers who are furloughed without pay that they're going to get back pay once this thing is over. That's a safety net on paper. I get it, but it doesn't help the fact that rent is due right now. Electricity is due right now. Credit card bills are due right now. So real lives are being squeezed in this thing. Now, as this shutdown drags on, many federal agencies are sort of scaling back or pausing their operations, right? For example, you got the FCC, right? The FCC has pretty much shut down most of its normal functions right now, and they furloughed over 80% of their overall workforce here in America. Now, many public services, regulatory reviews, and these financial oversight activities are slowed right now or they're suspended. Now, when government agencies can't move like we see right now, the economy feels it. So even while all this is happening, you also have the stock market that tried basically late last week to sort of shrug this whole thing off like it was no big deal. Think back to last Friday, a couple days ago. You had the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones closing at record highs. Now, I think that was the S&P 500's 30th record high this year. So it's still going strong as if there's nothing going on and nothing taking place. So here's the message from that. Some investors are pricing in that there's going to be a quick fix to this shutdown, or at least they're hoping there's going to be a quick fix to this shutdown. Now, listen, when hope is the foundation, that's pretty fragile, right? We just don't know. Now, here's the bigger game that a lot of people are actually missing on this thing. Because you have agencies that are shut down or slowed down, we're losing data that we heavily rely on, the data that we talk about on this channel, jobs reports, inflation numbers, consumer trends, all that stuff. Without that data, you have the Federal Reserve, the group that's charged with basically running the money supply in America. The Federal Reserve is having to navigate without necessarily getting that data timely from those agencies, right? So they had to make decisions sort of with a blind eye right now if this thing drags on. Speaking of the Fed, let me stay there for a moment. You got the Bank of America that just moved its Fed rate cut forecast forward to October instead of December. In other words, Bank of America thinks the Fed is going to lower the Fed funds rate again the next time the Fed meets in October. And Bank of America thinks that based on the softening labor trends and the strain from this shutdown, the Fed is probably going to cut rates again sooner than later. So the shutdown affects the Fed's decision to lower rates too. Now, you got Trump's influence. It's layered all over this thing, right? The strategy inside the White House with the Trump administration is pretty much using pressure as leverage, freezing federal infrastructure dollars for certain cities, particularly these cities that are led by Democrats, right? That leverage on those cities have become sort of a tool of negotiation. Now, that isn't just politics, it's sort of negotiation pressure, right? With real financial consequences for these cities. These cities lose planned federal funding. And that's pressure. Investors, they're going to hesitate. And then the national mood gets more volatile, like we've seen in these cities like Portland and Memphis and even Chicago. So the stock market and the markets out there, they know about all this. So this upswing that we've seen in the stock market in the last few days, especially at the end of last week, it's not because everything in the stock market's wonderful or great. It's because people are betting on a resolution to this shutdown, and they're betting on rate cuts, like I said, sooner rather than later. Now, here's 5 moves that you can make with your money right now that's going to help you, put you in a little bit better position. Now, I don't believe in panic moves, okay? But I do believe in smart moves. Now, these are 5 things that you should be doing in this moment right now. Move number 1, thicken your buffer. Get a bigger buffer, okay? If you have a bit of flexibility, you need to increase your cash cushion, if you can, at least by 5 or 10% more than normal. If you were intending, for example, if you were intending to spend or roll money out of cash this week, you might want to pause it, right? Tomorrow may bring some surprises that favor liquidity in your own personal finances. And being liquid with your cash is pretty important. If you got things that you can sell, or you got non-essential spending that you can sort of defer and hold off on, turn that into buffer money, in my opinion, as soon as you can. Now, move number 2 is this: protect your savings. Don't let easy interest slip away. Let me give you an example here. If you've got money just sitting in, say, a checking account, earning almost 0% interest, this is the moment you may want to move it into a high interest savings account. Why? Because high yield savings accounts right now are still paying a high return. But once the Fed starts cutting rates more, those higher returns in your high yield savings accounts are going to fall. So here's what I would do. Maybe go into your bank app or your credit union and look for high yield savings accounts or money market accounts that are paying closer to 4% or more if you can find them. Move your extra cash there, even if it's just a few $100. You're not investing money there. You're just parking the money somewhere else so that it actually earns something instead of sitting in your local credit union or bank account down the street earning almost nothing. Now, if you already have a savings account that's paying you, say, less than 2% ROI, that's like leaving free money on the table when you could move that money over to a high yield savings account getting 4%. Now, lock in the easy wins. That's an easy win. That's not a big deal. You can do that while it's still available. And those returns at those HYSAs are still what they are, because those high returns are not going to last if interest rates start coming down when the Fed starts cutting. Now, the third thing you can do is pretty much stay invested, guys. Right now is not the time to shut off the autopilot, right? If you're dollar cost averaging, what we call DCA, keep doing it right now. But I would lean in a little bit towards more stable, diversified funds. Not anything speculative, not anything that has high volatility, right? Make sure you're not just waiting to time the market and you continue to dollar cost average your money in. Now, the fourth thing I would do is pay my bills on time. Listen, you got to protect your credit. No matter what's going on in DC, you still got to protect your name and protect your credit. The easiest way that you can do that is simply pay your bills on time, even if it's just the minimum amounts. Late payments can crush your credit score, pile on fees, and make you trying to get a future loan or try to leverage your credit to get an asset that's going up in value. It's going to cost you more if your credit's not right. So this week, just take a few minutes out, log into your accounts, and make sure everything that's due is covered and paid. Now, if you know that a payment's going to be tight, call the company that you owe the payment to before the due date. Let them know. A lot of lenders are going to work with you if you communicate with them. But paying your bills on time is what's going to keep your credit strong, and strong credit keeps your options open when things get unpredictable. And also, strong credit allows you to buy appreciating assets that are going up in value and pay less for them. Now, the fifth thing I would do is simply cut some non-essentials for 1 month, at least 1 month, not a forever thing, right? But just a month while the government and the markets try to figure this thing out. You figure your money out, right? You pause or cancel things that you don't truly need for about 30 days. Give it a shot. Streaming services for things you barely watch on TV, delivery apps, right? Any type of premium memberships, any type of subscriptions you're not using, and any small luxuries that are quietly draining your cash. Listen, you'll be surprised how quickly those little small dollars can add up. That extra money can become a part of your cushion, right? Your safety net. And in times like these, flexibility is your superpower. So when things settle, you can kind of return to what you were doing and get those services back. But right now, I suggest your money needs a month to breathe, and let's see what happens. Now, these 5 money moves that I suggest you make, they're nothing dramatic. They're nothing flashy. But when times are uncertain like we have right now, these are things that are going to keep you stable, keep you feeling in control and empowered with your money. They sort of give you a safety net, help you guard your base and act ahead of time instead of reacting to things that are going on. So listen, there's pretty much 2 paths from here, right? One way or the other. If Washington finds a deal, say by tomorrow, that's great news, but guess what? You've already built your buffer in. You've started thinking about moving some money into a better saving spot, and your long-term investments still do their job in the background, right? Good deal, right? But if this government shutdown tends to drag into, say, next week or longer, your mindset should begin to shift towards protection of what you have. Now, that means keeping your extra cash close, staying consistent with your plan, whatever that plan is, and being careful not to take on any new financial risk in this time of uncertainty. You don't need it, right? If President Trump continues to use these funding freezes or pressure tactics to get Congress moving on making a deal, the headlines may end up getting louder, right? Whatever you see on TV or social media, it may begin to get more harsh, right? But the fundamentals of what you should be doing with your money, they really don't change based on what's happening in DC. No matter what happens in Congress, right? You need to stay steady. Don't let the fear and frustration or politics push you into emotional decisions. As the government gets data flowing again, if this thing returns to normal soon and the economy regains its direction, right? Take time to confirm what's real, instead of reacting to what's just loud and out there in the public. Look, you can't control the White House. Nobody can. We can't control the White House. You can't control the White House or Congress. We can't control Congress, right? But here's the deal. We can control how we respond or how we act before we have to react. So you can decide to be proactive and not be panicked, right? You can decide to build your cushion and pay your bills on time. That's something you can do. And you can also decide to keep your plan running, whatever your plan is, while the rest of the world is out there arguing, right? That's how everyday people build long-term peace of mind, and they don't let a government shutdown throw them off their game. Now, if you want the playbook that I use to help people map out and help people manage life and money, it's inside my new course, The 4 Steps to Maximize Your Money. Enrollment for that course is open right now. Click on the first link in the description box below, or you can go over to smartmoneybroyou.com and check it out. Listen, if this video helped you make sense of any of this stuff, share it with someone who needs to hear it. You don't have to predict the future, guys. You just have to prepare for it. Smash that like button and drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Listen, the best person to take care of the old you is the young you. Guys, take good care of yourself and take care of other people. Until the next video, peace.